Hello, hello, welcome everyone, new and true friends. It's so good to have you here with us during this time, and just so happy to be back. I took a little break because I had some amazing retreats that I supported people with, and that really helped me to reset and restore my own energy as it's so important, isn't it, in this time and day and age and energies that we're experiencing really here. So if you're first time to this tuning in, whether it's podcast or live streaming, I like to share a little bit about myself and the purpose behind what I do. Because throughout the years of working with individuals, a lot of different individuals, different backgrounds, different ages, ethnicities, I observed something very profound, and that was the life experiences, or what some people might call trauma, just doesn't affect our mental and emotional states, but it's really our physicality. It really sits within the body. And so it's really important for everybody to understand that how the sympathetic nervous system works. And I've discovered this through, or I learned through, the biodynamic breath work and trauma release system. Really dove into this and how the body's responding to just our thoughts, to just how we remember situations or hear a sound or even a smell, even somebody who reminds us of somebody else, right? It heightens our nervous system, puts us in that sympathetic nervous state, that fight, flight, freeze, fawn mode. And that causes us to constantly look outside ourselves, right? We're looking for threats. We remain hypervigilant and disconnected from our greatest resource. And that's the intelligence of our own body. Our body is so intelligent, and it's the gateway to remembering our own vitality and connection to source, whatever that is for you, your higher power source. And that's why I created Living with Intention, to bring forward new approaches to wellness. We need to think outside the box. We need to remember that our bodies evolve as well as our energy systems throughout our entire life. We don't get to the age of 25 and remain with the same body. I'm living proof of that, right? So we need to adapt these changes with awareness and purpose. That's what I call living with intention. And as you've experienced in your own life, right, change is inevitable. And when you're not centered and connected with yourself, then we can easily be swept away by the mental chaos of resisting change, of frantically trying to fix situations. As I know Brian Muka is going to talk about that, because we were chatting about that backstage. Brian, your intuition is spot on, because we want to feel better about circumstances and ourselves. And I want to remind everybody that change is an invitation for growth, really. It invites us to shift our perceptions. It invites us to step back and really be curious. And with that simple shift, the perception can ease the pressure and allow us to appreciate, right, what's unfolding in the moment rather than fighting against it. And that's what creates more chaos. So this is why I'm bringing forward 3 amazing souls who have weathered significant challenges in their lives. Today we have Troy Carnes, Will Schneider, and Brian Muka, who will share their insights and wisdom on how you can find clarity within the chaos. And they each bring a wonderful, unique perspective to navigating life's storms while maintaining your center. So I hope you get settled in, right? If you're live with us right now, ask some questions, right? Interact with us. We love having you here. And keep that open mind and heart, as we will kind of push the needle, right? We will ask you to reflect and think about things in a different way. So that way you can find that stillness and moving forward with your intention and resiliency for clarity. That's what we're here for. So I'm here to bring up our guests here. I'll add Brian and Will and Troy up to the stage. Thank you. Thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you. This is an honor to be here, honor to have this conversation with everybody and this live audience. So really, really appreciate it, because this is great information, or I'm assuming is going to be great information, and information that people and also tools that people can use. And so thank you. I'm always honored. Thank you.
Most definitely, Will. And this is your second time with me. Will was in my mindfulness series on my previous podcast. So check that out. Find Will. He's amazing. So before we go into it, I would love for each and every one of you to, just share who you are and how you're expanding wellness in your community. Crickets.
I'll keep going.
Okay, Will,
so I've been co-hosting Men Talking Mindfulness for the last 5 years, and we've had the great opportunity and created a space to have conversations for anybody to listen to. But since there's two men talking about mindfulness, we dive it deep into what is really causing a lot of struggles in men today. And whether it's business or relationships or leadership or, self-compassion. So that's the spaces I've been working in. I also do like one-on-one coaching, and I also teach here in New York City, yoga and breath work and meditation as well. So it's just awesome to do this work. To see also what brings me back to this work all the time is just seeing in these moments where we get a chance to really practice and do things, the change that people can experience in just such a short amount of time. And those changes stay with them forever. So, yeah. It
is so true. I love that, Will. Thank you for being here and sharing with us today. Yeah.
Thank you.
Troy, you're up next. I'm dragging you up there.
Sure thing. April, thanks for having me. This is awesome. And I'm super grateful to be here with Will and with Brian too. So what a treat. What about me? So I'm here because I went through a pretty tough time a few years ago, and that tough time revealed a lot of toxic beliefs that I was holding before. Mainly that asking for help was a sign of weakness. I mean, that was like core number one belief I had, and core number two belief was that I had to fix everything, and everything could be fixed. And I had a big, scary, dangerous, rare cancer diagnosis, and I had to face my addiction with alcohol, and all of those things showed me that asking for help is a sign of maturity, and that not everything has a simple fix. You can't just fix everything. Some things need to be nurtured, and I know that there are lots of people who still hold the toxic beliefs that I had before, and I'm just out here to share my experience with them and show them that we can find a different way and show ourselves that we're worthy enough to nurture our lives. And the thing that I didn't expect was that I actually got better results in everything, relationships, business, when I figured this out.
Can't wait to hear more about that for sure, Troy. Thank you. Brian,
Troy, you just mentioned the thing that gets me so jazzed is this really powerful vulnerability. And so it's just, if I could talk to your audience for a second, April, just a permission to go there in this conversation.
Of course.
The chaos. So maybe the reason I'm here is I'm a recovering coward, said the U.S. Navy bomb technician. That should hurt your brain a little bit. It hurts mine when I look back on it. And I set out to prove that I wasn't afraid. That's why I did triathlons. It's why I surfed 10-foot waves. It's why I jumped out of airplanes at night, did bomb surgery, those types of things, to prove to myself that I wasn't actually a coward. I fought it forever, put a lot of energy into not being a coward, and guess what I got? I early manifested the end of my special operations career because I did not believe in myself enough. And so, who am I? I'm just a guide and a whisperer and maybe a lighthouse sometimes, reminding myself. I think I came to Earth to teach what I came to learn was about how to harness fear. And I get opportunities every single day. I haven't cured it. It's not my job to cure fear, but like how to dance with it. And I'm remembering that the outside challenges. I see it a lot. I saw it in myself to no longer overestimate the outside world, and to not underestimate myself either. But like the so within, so without, they have to be equal. And so, what are the stories that I tell? That's one of the most powerful things that I learned is what story am I making up to explain what I'm. And so the idea that like it could be like the worst, most pressurized depth of Mariana's Trench, and not the Jocko Willink like good. I know that you're about to have him on your show, Will, but like thank you, right? That's my contribution to the conversation. If it feels uncomfortable, if I can find gratitude, I'm unstoppable. So there it is. That's who I am. I'm unstoppable now. In recovery, now I'm unstoppable. So there you go.
And I don't want you to stop, Brian. I don't think anybody wants you to stop. Yeah, it's all amazing, wonderful insights. Anybody who is familiar with Brian and just who he is at his core is an incredible, I'm just going to say being. And I enjoy all of our conversations that we've had, and I'm looking forward to so many more. So yeah, let's talk about finding that clarity within chaos, because as I said earlier, it is all about how our mind perceives. What are we taking in? How are we relating in the world? Is it I'm in a friendly space, or is it I need to protect myself in fear space, as Brian was talking about, being that coward and doing all the things to prove to yourself, Brian, about that. Mm-hmm. Can you just unpack that a little bit more, and then we'll have Troy and Will share?
I'm going to zoom out just a sec. So in Mandarin, there's a great two caricatures for crisis. And the two caricatures are both chaos and opportunity. Mm-hmm. And I was writing about this the other day in the Great Depression. History doesn't repeat itself, but it sure does rhyme. A third of the people got their asses handed to them during the Great Depression. A third of the people worked their asses off and stayed the same, and a third built generational wealth in it, because they knew that along with chaos also comes opportunity. But I can't see the opportunity if my amygdala, the fear center of my brain, is in reptile mode. And so a big thing that I learned while shooting close quarters combat, I don't have any combat experience really. Like I was never, shooting rounds back, and I countered a couple of improvised explosive devices. So I certainly am not a war hero in that. But I learned enough in training to know that when I am panicked, I am not a human. I'm a reptile. And so if I'm hijacked, if I'm deeply in the sympathetic panic state, I can't think properly. And so even help seems like a threat. And so when I can relax and take a breath the way that Will teaches, and remember that I'm the author of my story, why did I create this in my life's movie? How can I love this too? Now I can finally see the opportunities. So that's how I like to kick off the chaos versus opportunity part of this conversation.
Yeah. Well said. And bringing up Will, and let's bring him up. And Will, adding your essence to what Brian just shared, how you are able to help people find that clarity.
Well, I think it always starts within, and I've been effective at teaching because I've been trying to teach myself for so long. Because what I've been working with so often is my anxiety. I kind of grew up in a rather anxious family, and you can't pick your parents or you can't pick your family. So, this was kind of really a deep part of my experience for a very long time. And then I realized when I moved to New York City, like it was actually a real problem. Or because at first I kind of woke up to my anxiety. And that's when I started to really take control and understand what it took in order to take control, or at least, like, control is a funny word, but at least get out of the chaos, get out of the reptilian bullshit, the stories that this anxiety would create in my mind, in my body, and the actions I'd be taking, and therefore the results that I'd be given, just by being driven by like almost systemic anxiety in some ways. And I'm not saying I was paralyzed and couldn't get out of the house or something like that, but there's always things. And even now, I mean, there's definitely things working in kind of in the background of my mind way too often. And this brought me to meditation. This brought me to breath work. This brought me to yoga, just trying to overcome and stay more calm, and get out of the chaos of anxiety. And I got to say, I mean, I'm kind of like a recovering, anxiety addict, maybe, in some ways. And it's a nonstop journey. And I think part of me getting better with anxiety is getting better with myself. And part of me getting better to myself was understanding and leveraging compassion and self-compassion. And I've been able to, over the last 20 years through this development, and about 15 years ago, I really started to teach. And, you're kind of teaching from the student, if you will. And it's just, we're all, I guess, like the human condition is very similar for a lot of people. When I say anxiety, people understand what it is. Like, it might manifest in many different ways, but it's still there. The energy of it is still there. And I think we all need to know that we can have a massive effect on our energy. But what is our energy? Our energy is really dictated by our breath. And if we can really calm our ass down by leveraging very simple breathing practices, and do them consistently, and get to know them as a very powerful tool to change your experience in the moment, you can really change your experience, other people's experiences, and everything going forward. And it's like, so I don't know. It's been awesome to be able to just be here today. Like, I can't believe this is the work that I do, to be honest with you, because I've gotten out of my way, and because I've overcome my fear, my anxiety, and now I can share. And it's just beautiful. And I'm grateful, right, Brian? I was saying gratitude. It's like, yes. Anyway, so thanks. I know. Thanks for my anxiety. Wasn't for my fucking anxiety, I wouldn't be here, so anyway. Thanks, guys.
Wow. I love that. And embracing, right? Recognizing how our bodies, it's not good or bad. It's just how we've been wired. Yeah. And recognizing this is, I know, Brian, hold on a moment.
Sorry.
It's realizing in the moment about this is where I'm at right now. Mm-hmm. And so making that choice and pivoting. Our bodies are just reacting, responding, and being able to make that choice to pivot.
Yeah.
So before you go into that thought, Brian, I really want to bring in Troy, though, because you mentioned about stories, and Troy's has a new book coming out, and his story is absolutely phenomenal in standing in that fear of all the things. So thank you, Troy, for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And so I have a couple things that came to mind in listening to Brian and Will there. And one of them is about our perceptions. And Lisa Feldman Barrett's awesome. If you haven't watched her YouTube TED Talk, I would suggest it. One of her big points is that, our brains are just constantly predicting what's going to happen. And as they're predicting, we then take in, everything from our sight, our sounds, and we compare those two things. But we're just predicting first and foremost. So what we expect to happen often does. And when we can understand that and unlock it a little bit and change our expectations. You just mentioned how our bodies are just reacting, but what we perceive those can be two very, very different things. And, during the Olympics that just happened, I heard Simon Sinek say something really smart. He said, every interview where there was a reporter and an athlete, the reporter would say something to the effect of, "You must have been really nervous out there doing this thing." And the athlete said, "No, I was just excited to be there." But if you think about the body signals that you get when you're nervous or excited, they're elevated heart rate, deeper breathing. The signals are all the same, but you perceive them in different ways. Of course, the reporter would be super nervous in that situation because they're not trained athletes. The same way that the athlete would probably be nervous if they were on TV all the time, like having to talk and do the things the reporter would do because they're not trained for that. And that's a huge unlock when you realize that your expectations of a situation can dictate the way that you feel about them. You start to gain a little bit more control over them. And the other thing that I found in terms of chaos is that our minds go so fast, right? Ethan Kross is a great psychologist at the University of Michigan. He opens his book Chatter by saying we have 4,000 thoughts per minute running through our minds. It's too fast to process. If you think about how fast we speak, it's 120 words a minute. And we type at 60 words a minute if you're super fast. And so writing to me has been the biggest tool to turn chaos into clarity, because this is James Pennebaker from the University of Texas, wrote a whole book on expressive writing. He talks about how it boosts your immune system. This is measurable in your blood. Mm-hmm. And the practice of transforming your thought to language is the key to understanding it. And Will, you talked about...
Oh, say that one more time. Say that one more time. The key, what?
The process of turning your thoughts into language is the key to understanding them.
Mm.
Yeah.
And Will, you talked about how you started this because you're really teaching yourself. We've all heard that the best way to learn something is by teaching it. And this is one of the reasons why. Because when you teach something, you have to turn it into language that makes sense. And when you can take those 4,000 words and transform them into 125 or 100. One exercise that I tell people, if you want to really experience this, turn on a podcast at 3.5x and tell me what you learn. It won't be anything. And that's 400 words a minute, right? Your brain's going 10 times faster than that. So if you really want to understand the chaos that's happening in your mind, turn it into language. You can talk, you can type, you can write. But that's the process. That's the key to turning all the chaos in your mind into clarity.
Yeah. I've got so many gains. Sorry, Brian. I got so many gains from journaling. That's actually where my first step on the path of being more mindful and taking control of more of my experience is journaling. It is. I went through, and I recommend for everybody. You really want to read a game-changing book. The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron is incredible. And one of the principles that she has in there, in order to access that personal transformation, is the morning pages. Right, writing them in the morning, right, is what it is. But also, I've heard them as morning, MOUR, right, you're just dumping all your shit out. And being able to literally contextualize all some of those 4,000 thoughts that you just talked about, Troy, into language, it just creates that is a great start of clarity. Imagine getting clouds out of your head, raindrops falling on a fucking paper or something, and it's just it just slowly the storm starts to calm down and you begin to access that clarity, because now you have that perspective and that kind of zoom out moment where you can really look at, is this, like you said earlier, Brian, is this true? Is that me?
I love it. And as I hear you guys talk about the journaling in the mind, I want to share two things on that. The first is, hey, Will, let's high five, right? So in order for us to accurately do that, I have to project a quarter second in the future. The superlative of that is hitting a fastball in Wrigley Stadium. My nervous system's not fast enough. So my brain must predict where that baseball is going to be. It happens in a quarter second. So therefore, all of life is happening in a quarter-second projection into the future. So with the journaling and the breath, I can then be more present. And if I can watch, what we're talking about here is the journaling. What are the stories? What's the trash that I'm carrying around in my life in my suitcase? So what broke it open for me was talking at 60% speed.
Yeah.
And the key in talking at 60% speed. Oh wow, we're gonna talk about this. I remember the story I told my language coach, Mark England, which is inadvertently how I met Will. I met Will through a mutual friend from Mark, so that's how I know him. And I told Mark the story the last time I made French press coffee for Jessica, my practice wife, and I was hysterical. It hurt a lot, and he said, "Slow down." And so I did. And he said, "Tell me about how you made the coffee." Well, first I boiled the water. Now take a breath. And I did this exact thing with a firefighter 2 weeks ago, talking about 9/11. And I had him slow down and take a breath. And each time I got to a period and a comma, he took a breath. And so what was actually happening at a neurological level, he was breathing out the neuropeptides that didn't have the space to be processed until right now. So every way gets us there. If you like journaling, do that. You like speaking in a recorder, do that.
Yep.
You like interpretive dancing, go do that. But the point is to take the time to really be with it. And man, please, I want to whisper this in my 23-year-old's ear. If it hurts, feel the hurt all the way. It doesn't last more than 4 minutes. And so for me, it's the breath. And so as I breathe in right now, I have a little bit of tightness in my throat. What's that about? And so getting really curious, what is the tightness in the breath showing me as a teacher? It's always there. Breath always delivers. For me, at least. I haven't experienced a time when the breath hasn't. I'm open to that. I just haven't seen it yet.
Well, I mean, maybe we can jump into why the breath it is like the most impactful piece of our experience, because it's like the first thing we do when we come into this world is we take a breath, right? And the last thing we do and go out is we let the breath out. And I really feel like we are in between those first and last moment of breath. The quality of our experience depends on the quality of our breath, because it is what brings an energy into our body. It changes our energy in our mind and our body, depending on how we breathe, how deep we breathe, the number of breaths that we take per minute. And it's just so powerful. And what's so amazing what you're saying, Brian, is it's always there. It's simple to access. And what's important is like, you're just not, you have to earn the skill in order to utilize your breath in order to gain the clarity that the breath is going to bring. It's just not something, unless you have a really fantastic, it still needs to be taught. Like this should be something that's taught when we're like, maybe 7, 8 years old, when it's just like, hey, let's take a couple breaths as a family right now, or whatever the fuck is going on in the moment. Let's just take a couple breaths, detach from, the craziness, the chaos that's going on in our mind, get to the good baseline, cut to the truth of the reality of the moment. And then let's open our mouths after we get to that clarity. Like, and if you teach that, to whomever.
2 years old. 2 year old.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't like, I agree. I don't have any kids yet. So it's like, probably even younger, right? But get it in the DNA, get it in the programming early. Instead, what do we have in this world right now? Sadly, it's just everything is driven by emotion. Everything is emotionally reactive. And that's the chaos, and we just keep spinning around this chaos or all the time. So
exactly, it's having that loop of repetitive thinking, and it's tied to that emotion. So there's a question that somebody asked. I think this might be, is this Sabrina, because it's a LinkedIn user, and she said it was Sabrina in the very beginning. She has a question about how does embracing chaos actually fuel clarity? And maybe just shifting that a little bit for her with that question. Troy, what are your thoughts about her question, the question there?
Yeah, this reminds me of a conversation I had with my wife yesterday. about shoulds, right? And a lot of chaos comes down to shoulds, things we think should happen, expectations that we have. And the flip side of that coin is acceptance. And so when you can just accept a little bit more than you think about what you should be doing, you'll get a little bit more clarity because you're not so bunched up in expectations. And one thing that's been on my mind a lot this in the last week is the difference between something bad happening and something good not happening. And sometimes, our fight or flight makes those two things the same. When something bad happens, it's bad, right? Like, I've been there, it sucks. And that's very different than something good not happening, right? I don't win the lotto every week. That's not bad, right? That's not a bad thing that happened to me. That's something that's good that didn't happen to me. But the difference between should and expectations, I think that's the cause of a lot of the chaos and a lot of the bunchiness that I've felt and that I've heard other people feel as well. And so embracing chaos instead feels to me more like acceptance, with the understanding that a lot of it isn't ever going to go away. There's no end solution where it's like done, gone, solved, don't have to think about that anymore. These things are going to come up all the time. And so when you can embrace that and just say, how are we going to nurture this, or how are we going to live with this instead of fight against it?
Yeah.
Things slow down for me.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah. Thank you, Troy. And I just want to say also that it's also our perceptions, whether it's good or bad. There is
Shakespeare,
really nothing bad happening. And people get very angry or resist that, right? They push against it. What do you mean? Somebody died. These things are happening in the world, and it's horrible and terrible and all the things. Although I'm really curious about what each of your perceptions are on this, as mine is, this is kind of evolution. This is things unfolding, and this is where we lean in and listen. This is where growth happens, not to go down the rabbit hole, or I say a trauma vortex, just get spiraling down with that and contributing to that. That's also a form of energy as well. We get to choose where we want to be in that. And I think that Brian had something to say also. I saw you
Quite
before
a
I jumped in there.
So Will, you had mentioned Billy Shakespeare.
Oh, yeah.
And I heard a quote from Bashar recently that life comes without meaning. And I don't mean that to sound nihilistic at all. I don't mean life is meaningless. I mean, it's without meaning attached to it for good reason. I get to decide what it means. And so Troy, I got triggered where you're like, this is bad. I don't know. We'll see. Right. So me getting relieved of command in Iraq was bad. But yet it's the reason that I have any compassion for people going through suicide, getting fired, having a whole life explosion. I have compassion for it because I had to live it first before I could teach it, And so I just want to talk a little bit about control in chaos. So trained fighters, when subject to combat noise, they have the same amygdala hijacking as someone that's not a professional fighter. The difference is they can find their baseline much faster because they know what it's like to be being choked out, for example. That's pretty stressful. Also, having your parachute not open below the tops of the mountains in Mexico, pretty stressful. And the only thing I had in that moment was my breath because I trained it. Right? There are 0 Delta airline pilots that have to figure out what to do if that left engine goes out. They've practiced it. They've rehearsed it. They've even talked to Boeing about what to do in that situation. I'm finding that's the difference between the amateurs. I'm going to figure this out as it comes up. Okay. What are the known points of failure in anything? So if we're talking chaos, we're talking family situation. I think it comes down to control. There's a great book, Super Communicators, and the difference between a successful marriage and unsuccessful marriages all come down to the word control. You don't get to talk to me that way. That creates more chaos because I don't want to be told what to do. Right. So what can I control in the chaos? I'm going to take a breath and I'm going to come back later when I have my wits about me, because I love you and I can't speak to you lovingly right now. I'm fully hijacked. I'm a reptile. I want to punch everything in the face, and I don't want to regret something that I say to you now. So I'm going to control myself. And then also, like in the sales world, if I don't have control of my breath, that's the number one cause of I need to go and think about it because I was breathing like an asshole. Like I'm not calm in what I'm saying, right? And so if we are calm, sharing the same breath, it's amazing the coherence that's produced in sharing the same bubble of air. Pretty cool.
Mm.
Well, I think in those moments you're controlling your energy, and that's really, again, coming back to the breath. It's like because if say you mentioned like people can feel that in that little bubble. There's like when two minds come together, a third mind is formed, and that third mind can be a great opportunity, right? For opportunity, for whatever that opportunity is going to be, or it could be like, just feeling each other out. It's like, it's, if this person is really anxious, like your defenses go up. If the person's very calm, relaxed, controlled, poised, you're kind of invited in and kind of drawn in a little bit more. For sure. I mean, so how are you, like, I think it's like, how are you being? Like, we're human beings, and like the human is the flesh and the blood and all these amazing biological systems that we have, but we inhabit it. The being part is like, that's where's the meaning? Like, that's where the meaning comes from. That's where energy comes from. That's how this self-control comes from. But it's also the opposite is true. If we're not in control of our being, right, and we're being an asshole, being an anxious jerk, then what's our experience going to be? And how is the human going to move and act in that environment? So
exactly, that just begets more chaos.
Yeah,
right? And it keeps that, it fuels it.
Yeah,
and the mind will keep adding. It's so good, right? Our minds are
amazing.
Incredible. It'll keep adding to the pot of, oh yeah, you need justification for that.
Yeah,
Here's
exactly.
another scenario. You remember when that happened? I'm thinking of Troy with your discussion with your wife, right?
Yeah.
And that's what usually, unfortunately, some dynamics of relationships, right? They throw in the kitchen sink. They talk about something that happened 10 years ago, whatever that is, and they're still chewing on that to justify that emotion that is still not released, right? We have this activation in our bodies. So Troy, with your experience, going through cancer and all of that, and even before that, you had some, quite a bit of like revelations of what you needed to do for yourself.
Yeah. I had a drinking problem and had to go take care of that because my life was definitely devolving into chaos. And I was looking at a future without the family that I had and that I loved very much. And it scared the crap out of me. And that was really the point when I had to say, asking for help is actually the smartest and the strongest thing I can do here, because it became incredibly clear that it was not a problem I was going to be able to solve by myself. And then I realized that it wasn't a problem that was ever going to be solved ever. It's just something that I'm going to be living with, and that's okay. And actually I'm better for it, because it means that I'm, constantly working on all the stuff that we're talking about here, breathing and journaling and everything else. And in my last week of treatment, I got my surgeon called it big, scary, dangerous, rare cancer. That's like the bingo. And, they say you'll get tested on your way out of rehab, and that was mine. And that was pretty chaotic, pretty fast. I mean, it's a little weird. You think about, we're talking about perceptions and everything. Like I only knew I had cancer for a couple weeks before they cut it out of me. So I didn't have the experience that many have with chemo and radiation. My cancer doesn't respond to those things. It's an event that will impact me the rest of my life, but the time that it happened was super short and incredibly you have to redesign your whole life to then live without a shoulder blade for the rest of it. And yeah, those tools of journaling, paying attention to what I'm eating, not isolating myself, which is something that I would normally have done.
Mm-hmm.
People need people. We always have and always will. And leaning into that, it was incredibly important to me. And then really managing energy, right? Sleep and exercise. I always thought, we'll sleep when we're dead. And it was like, well, I was getting there faster because of the mentality, right?
Mm-hmm.
But having the energy to keep those routines up it has definitely made things more clear now. And we talk about like, are there good things or bad things? Man, I wouldn't recommend people getting cancer and all that, but as much as that energy brought in, I've worked to spit it out into something that I think is more helpful and positive and things like that. So yeah, I mean, you can turn those, bad or negative, maybe, if we don't want to use judgments. Like I get that, but like, yeah, it's not anything I would recommend on somebody. And that also doesn't mean that it can't turn into something better on the other side, depending on what you do with the energy. And
That's
it could
exactly
be, and it
right
could be
there.
even bigger. It could be even a bigger benefit out the other side than it was coming in. You can amplify, you can judo flip it, in my mind. But that's, I mean, it's been an incredible learning experience. And man, Will, talk about like breathing. This is every day with my kids. We talk about breathing every day.
Yeah, that's awesome. And how do they respond, Troy? Like, so how are you seeing that manifest in your family? Like, are they more, you know what I mean? Are they more, do they understand how that takes them? And did they utilize that with you, or do you see them doing that in the playground or something?
A little bit. Green shoots, right? The kids are still pretty young. They're 6 and 9.
Yeah, okay.
They're 6 and 9. And, but we practice it, we practice every day. And I can see them in the moment now saying things like, they're not quite to the point where they're like flipping the switch. And then like the training, Brian, like you were saying, like, isn't like kicking in, but I do notice them saying things like, I'm dysregulated right now. Like they're starting to notice it. They're not like,
that's great,
implementing, but they're, and I think that's the first step. And I'm like, thrilled. If I could have done that 20 years older than they are.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it's also, it's almost like a metaphor for a young student as well. Like anybody that's never really taken their breath ever and really used their breath as a tool for their like immediate transformation in the moment in just a few minutes. Like, it takes a lot of time to kind of wake up to be like, oh, wait, I'm feeling this, or wait, I'm out of control. And whatever that experience is, it's going to take time. But like, just like you're sitting with your kids on a daily basis and just working with them slowly, like anybody out there listening, this is the same process that you're going to have to undertake in order to, get this self-mastery, to get out of this chaos and into the clarity. It's just like, you just got to keep just 5 minutes a day, find your breath, just very simple breathing practices. And just by doing that, and just in a few weeks, you're going to feel different. That like natural clarity is going to tap you into the inside, so you can see like the internal weather and temperature, and then you can make better decisions on the outside. And then you take it a step further, or just like the experience goes further and further and deeper and deeper. And it just, for me, and I'm sure like your other, Troy and Brian, it's just greater states of peace, greater states of kindness, greater states of patience, greater states of compassion. And it just keeps all coming online, and it's already there. It's waiting, to kind of be like rediscovered, because it's already in our biology. It's in our DNA. It's just a matter of getting there and just chipping away a little bit every day. It's just incredible what can happen.
For sure. I love that you mentioned that every day. I see it as like a drop in the bucket, right? We're just inviting that breath We're being open and curious to see how that resonates with us, what's happening, just easing that sympathetic nervous system, being present, being more aware. And I love the questions that people are asking. I think this is Sabrina. She has round 2 questions here.
Awesome.
She asked before we go, because we got about 15 minutes here. What's the biggest opportunity hidden within chaos? And how do we intentionally cultivate moments of clarity amid the constant change? So I'm going to bring you up, Brian.
Yeah. So this is crazy.
It's
crazy.
Good. There's no crazy here. There's no such thing as crazy.
Because I was formulating an answer around clarity being a consequence, not requiring clarity first in the chaos, right? So I think that's the biggest hidden opportunity is, so imagine I'm a test pilot and the airplane's flying sideways. It's never happened before. So I'm pretending I'm Chuck Yeager. I'm actually test piloting because before that moment, the plane was flying itself. So I'm not really learning anything at straight and level flight. The chaos gives me the opportunity to see something new. And so if I just know that, okay, cool, I'm in chaos, right? And I think of the first breath I was scared to take was at 6 feet underwater during my dive training. It was scary because my whole body's like, you're not allowed to breathe underwater like this. And I had to do it or else I would have been kicked out of my dream, right? So that was cool, right? So I faced the chaos and I found peace under the ocean. And it's kind of a good metaphor for my breath journey. And then I remember training with Wim Hof and we've been breathing for like 45 minutes, the breathe in, motherfucker, and the reason he's talking about that is to break through the next eggshell. And so I have 2,700 days in a row of a conscious breath practice. And there are days that I'm afraid to go into the breath. And I think the reason that happens is like the boogeyman under my bed that I created, if I'm being honest, wants to be looked at once in a while. What's there? And if I'm feeling resistance in the breath, I really need it. So there's an opportunity hidden in the chaos. What's the treasure I'll find in my trauma?
So true. Yeah. So true.
And the stillness. Like in stillness, I had this as a mantra for a long time. I'm the calm in the hurricane. I thought that was rad. I can always find the calm eye of the story using breath and Tai Chi Gong and language and all that stuff. The downside of how do we intentionally find moments of clarity and constant change happens in stillness. I don't need to create the hurricane anymore to find stillness. I could just have it anytime I want it.
Yes, we can have it anytime.
I think we are the stillness, right? We always can be there, or not always, but it's always within us. But you have to be able to get familiar with the stillness that's within you. And it's something that's, you need to sit, you need to stop, you need to one thing I help my students and I talk about on the show quite often, and I hear it from so many of the guests in so many different ways. They say if we're always in the doing space and always trying to, just impact the world and just doing, we're always doing, whether it's something work, relationship, home, what about getting into the non-doing space? We have this oppositional paradigm that we are in all the time, the up without a down, in without an out, an inhale without an exhale. And it's what's in between that is the stillness, and it's always there. And we have to just get still, stop what we're doing, calm ourselves down in order to access that natural stillness, and things can really, really change. Or you can have an opportunity to change. That's that in between stimulus and response is what Viktor Frankl says. There's a gap, and in that gap is what you can make the difference. You can make a choice that frees you from your suffering.
I think you just answered what Tanshuka just asked, right? How really one should sit with the chaos to get clarity. Exactly.
I just got a download while Will was talking. And in the F-18, there's handles on the cockpit. And so if that aircraft is in a flat spin, the instruction is to do nothing and just grab the handles. The aircraft knows what to do to get out of that. And so what I've been practicing in the chaos is the backwards law. So 92% of us have been taught that the rise and grind and forcing things is the way to do it. It's not. To let go, to sit in the like stillness is uncomfortable at first. There's a reason that solitary confinement is the preferred torture of choice for hardened criminals, because it's so painful. And what that is the trauma finally getting a chance to come out. Now, I personally believe that unless that trauma comes out, it manifests in things like cancer.
Yeah.
What would you say to that, Troy? What do you think about that?
You know, I come back to something that one of my smartest managers at work said to me, which is we seem to be always deciding between, are we going to do this or are we going to do that? And people forget to think about the third scenario, which is the do nothing scenario.
Yes.
And so if you can consider the do nothing scenario a little bit more often, you might find a couple things. One, that maybe things aren't as fill in the blank, good, bad, crazy, not crazy, whatever as you think they are. That things are maybe okay. Or you can zoom out a little bit, which helps to give the perspective to bring a little bit more clarity. And so I think about that a lot. What's the do nothing scenario here? Instead of do I do X or Y? What if I do nothing first?
Well, one of the things that causes our chaos is us reacting emotionally to whatever situation. And that's just, and then we're like, oh my God, I shouldn't have said that, or I shouldn't have done that. And we regret it. And now there's some sort of rift between me and this other person or whatever, this circumstance or situation. And then we're backpedaling from that. But instead, what I've learned, it's like, and, I think we all can probably have experienced that family can really piss us off, right? When I get picked, and that's a great training ground, your family, because they're always going to be pushing those buttons and those triggers like all the time, right? So you can so those circumstances where you get emotionally activated, just like that's when you hit that pause. That's when I've hit that pause. I'm like, sometimes I'll take days to respond to an email or a message. Days. I'll just sit until I get out of chaos, all like, oh my God, what about this? What about that? Not of my rational brain, of my, of this irrational self that I have, down into my heart, down into my body with a calm body. And then that's when the clarity comes on. It's like, oh, that's what I need to do here. And then I'll take that action and be like, oh, that actually worked out pretty good, or at least it's not like triggering them. It's making it could be transforming. Instead. It's transforming, right, this opportunity into something that comes from the heart instead of just like trying to play that game of who's right or whatever game they're trying to play anyway.
Exactly, Will. That the game, it's an energy, right? It's like a ping pong effect.
Yeah.
And when we slow down, just as you perfectly described, right? I don't have to respond to this email or that BS.
Yep. Yeah.
I can pause, step back, take a breath, focus on me, and then make that choice on how I want to respond or not. We're not obligated. Just because people are family doesn't mean they own us or own our emotions either. So
awesome.
Just a quick, before we leave, I would love, Brian, for you to share how people can get a hold of you, what's coming up for you.
I want to tack on one little tiny thing to what Will just shared. Like life is happening so fast for this little brain of mine that I don't know the answer a lot. And that's okay. Like once I realize I don't have to know the answer, and if I can really feel into my heart to feel what a true yes is and what a no is, and I only need to know what the next step is. And so if I can move into what's the next most exciting thing, my life is so much more ordered because of the synchronicities, the life that's now lifing instead of me forcing it. So I had to say that out loud. So you want me to answer, like, where can people find me and those types of things?
Yes, of course. What kind of things you have coming up to help people really bring themselves back to themselves? That's what I believe it to be. We need to remember who we are and our own power and being with with ourselves and all the things.
Yeah. So quickly, daily, I run the Invincibility Dojo. It's part of our entrepreneur experience campus. It's for all 3 levels of entrepreneurship. And really what we're sharing is Entrepreneur 3.0, where synchronicity and collaboration and coherence are running businesses of now. The 2.0 doesn't work anymore. That's the Steve Jobs. That's the Phil Knight using meditation. And so if that's at all interesting, we have 12 workshops every single week, like a college campus. Love to meet you. I'm finding that it works much, much faster. So the 5-year overnight success we're finding is like 6 months, working like 80% less in the forcing and just starting to have some fun with entrepreneurship. So 7-day guest pass for you. We've got the link somewhere here.
It's amazing.
And then I write a bit on Substack. If you really want to dig into the fear and what it means, Brian Muka on Substack is where I'm at.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm copying the link and I'm going to put it in the chat here really quick for people.
Appreciate you.
Of course, of course. And I see Will's up. He's giving me links to
I'm
share.
already dropping
excited.
stuff in there, you know. Hey, so thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you, April, for this opportunity. Brian and Troy, such a great opportunity to spend time with you guys today. You can find the podcast, Men Talking Mindfulness. We are everywhere. With podcast, YouTube. You can find us also on social, mentalkingmindfulness.com. We have, if I can plug a meditation course, if that's okay, that's coming up in a few weeks. If you'd like to check that out, go to mentalkingmindfulness.com. And my personal stuff is Will Not Fear, WILLNOTFEAR. That's my personal website, as well as you can hit me up on the Instagram.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Will, for being here and contributing to the stone soup of collective consciousness, as I like to call it.
Yeah, I love it.
That's awesome. And yeah, like it's my first like real chat with Will and Brian. You guys have been awesome. I'm looking forward to staying in touch with you guys. Thank you for sharing all this stuff. I mean, it's very cool to be a part of this. And April, like I said before in our chat, thanks for herding all the cats and getting us here. Where can people keep in touch with you? Just go to troycarnes.com, like throw your email in there, and you can I share weekly stories and science and systems from my book that's coming out later this year, and keep you in the loop on that. But book is called No Silver Bullets. It's going to have a cover next week. Huzzah.
That is so exciting.
Yeah.
I'm trying to put it in the chat, but YouTube is being a little pain and saying it won't accept. There we go.
Oh, wow.
Won't accept it, but here we go. It's in the chat for people to see, and I'll make sure that I put it in the description as well. Yes.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You are most welcome. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here with me and really contributing to this. It's so important for us to remember that our breath is so powerful, that we have the means to connect and to really pause and lean in and listen. I think that's also what Brian was getting at, like listening to that fear, overcoming it, as Will said, right? That addicted to anxiety. And also Troy, you mentioning about I love how you're sharing it with your kids. Oh my gosh, you're planting seeds and it's incredible. So I'm so excited for people to listen in and really pause. I'm asking everybody just to do your best to pause, reach out to Will, Brian, Troy, or myself, whoever you feel that resonated with you here today. Because you don't have to be in the chaos, right? There is clarity and vitality in our lives, in ourselves, and we are the ripple effect. So I will now remove everyone. I need to come back up. I will now, it's been a bit, right, since I've been live. So, hey, we're just having fun and flowing. So here's the outro. Thank you all for being here and keep living with intention.